Good afternoon and welcome back to Altenstein. We've had our lunch break, we're refreshed and refueled. I brought the bales which I put up on the Brantner backed up to the yard whilst I was on my way back from the lunch break with the lads. That brings us to this machine over here. Now to feed the cows, let's have a little look actually, shall we? For those of you that aren't familiar, the cows need water, they need straw, and without the straw they don't produce any manure. Grass they've got plenty of. I've given them a bale of grass already, and the silage and hay and power food we are going to give them by mixing up mixed rations. Now for that we need some silage, we need bales of hay, and we need bales of straw. Now the Massey here, the 356, it is his job. I need to put the help screen on the corner for you, and for me, of course. This chaff needs compacting. When you dump grass into the silo, it immediately turns to chaff, so it can't be grass again. And if you look in the bottom of the box in the top left hand corner, you can see it's getting compacted. This does it very nice and quickly. 3 or 4% a run, and it's literally driving backwards and forwards. Now the tractors take longer to do this. It's a question of weight, it seems to be, and perhaps tyre size, but I'm not sure about that. You can use a tractor and put some kind of weight or roller on it to do this. Now we're 100% compacted. What we are going to do is just tidy up this little front edge. I'm practicing doing front loaders from inside, but it's a science I have yet to perfect. I'm just going to get this back, or some of it won't get wrapped, and we'll just have a tatty bit of mess, which nobody wants at all. Oh, we got glitched under the concrete there. It can happen a lot with buckets and forks in this game. It's just the way some of the collisions are detected, particularly under things like pavements and walls, etc. All part of the character. And there we are, we've got to get him back up to 100% compaction, because we've put that stuff back on top. Now I do like this mod, it's very cheap. We'll have a look at the details later on. Very, very basic. Nothing inside here works, but does it need to? Even if it didn't work in real life, I think we'd be okay. There we are, we're 100% compacted. Now we can get over here, press left stick down, blanket the silo, and it is 1% fermented, as you can see already. And as soon as that's 100% fermented, which will be sometime tomorrow morning, we can start mixing up some food for the cows, keep them at 100% productivity. The only other job this machine really has, to be honest with you, will be shoveling silage into the biogas plant when we have some to sell. We'll see how that goes, how much of that we do, and yeah, I just like this machine. It's not, I don't know, it's got a kind of a cartoony look about it in some senses, but I think that's the design, not the mod. I mean, it's nice and dirty, it's got a little bit of roughness, looks very at home here. Nice grubby exhaust. It just looks, it looks like a character from Cars, to be quite honest, doesn't it? It needs a name. Somebody give it a name. That'd be great. Right, now we're going to get down to the farmyard. In fact, while we're here, let's not go straight down to the farmyard, because I did notice that those cows look like they needed some straw to me, so we'll just put that on there. We'll let off the tension straps. This tractor with the back weight on is coping fine with the bale work. You just have to be a little bit gentle with him, but since most of that work is going to be, for him at least, in quite confined areas, we're going to be taking it gently anyway. We'll keep that down low. Let's see how well we can do this. Fingers crossed, guys. Now bale physics can be a little bit entertaining, so let's see how we get on with this. Now all we need to do is get this into the shed and into this trough. Oh, we've got the silage pickup point there for the cows. I don't think I did point that out to you before. Oh, see, the depth perception really catches me out. especially using front loaders. There's a bale of straw in there, and we shall park you up in the shed for now. Over in the yard, Grandpa's put Madeline back in her pen for the afternoon. He's having a little tinker with the busher. He's having to think about a little tinker with the busher. Got his toolbox out. He likes to keep everything running beautifully. And as I described when we were in it, this is literally a tiny loading wagon. There's the pickup. Tiny engine, somewhere under there I assume. Yeah, it's just a self-propelled loading wagon. There's nothing more to it than that. It would also looks to me, I mean English people know what I mean, like it could double as a milk float quite nicely. Right, we've got a job. And we've got a job for the hats. So let's get him out and about. Fire up his engine. He's got the tether attached already. This is a very nippy little tractor. It accelerates very light, I guess. It accelerates very nicely. 18 mile an hour top speed, which is more than enough on Altenstein. You can actually see the gauges there have got life in them. We've even got a rear view mirror. That's a bit of a luxury item. Lighting wise, we've got on, off, and we've got a working light, which can be handy. I really don't like farming in the dark, and I know you're not going to like it if I have to farm in the dark, because it's not a good thing to record. Right, this guy should happily ted this field so we get some hay. And he'll do that very nicely indeed. Again, from the Farming Classics pack, the Hats is the oldest tractor I think certainly we've got on the farm so far, from the 1960s. 45 horsepower, perhaps 47, but again we will check the facts at some stage when we sit down and look through the brochure. Fine, I've just come back to the Hats just to see how the worker's getting on, and he seems to not be about to ted anything there. And just while we are back here, I'll give the Hats a little bit more credit where credit is due. It's only 40 horsepower. I did have a little check. Right, so we're going to lower the tedder. We're going to turn on the tedder. Lovely. And we're going to go. Off we go. There we are. Just to bring you up to speed to where we are before we start looking at the field crew, we have basically, if you can see where my cursor is over here by the sheep, that's where we've mowed. Mowing grass leaves it fertilised once. That's where we've mowed, and we're just tedding with the Hats. That's the field where we harvested the barley. That has now been ploughed and it has been fertilised once, as has the patch that we've reclaimed. And field 22 has been harvested of its canola, ploughed and fertilised once. So on with the show. Right, so first of all, Deutz, now back on slurry duty, is going to get started on this field. And while he does that, we should get the Massey. I'm just going to drop the front forks off here. They should be out of the way. There's no need to keep them on field work. They can get in the way, especially if you're on a tight field. You get to the end of it, it's the forks that mess up the worker turning. And we are going to plant barley in here today, so we'll get straw, 5 bales of straw. We know fertilising fields makes no difference to the straw output. The Massey Ferguson planter, 5 metres, very basic, no fertiliser, which fits well with our organic plan, matched with the tractor from the same Massey Ferguson classic pack, old time pack to be exact, I believe. Works very nicely, got the animations, got the warning triangles on, because we have to put safety at the top of our list of priorities. Does the job very nicely. Okay, the Deutz is on its way back with a new load of slurry. I think the seeding is just about finished. Now let's get this guy lined up. We know where he's going to have some trouble. Let's get spreading. Looks like the instruments do work on this model also, which is quite nice. Right, we're going to learn from our lesson. We're going to turn here, get this end done, and then we're going to turn up here, get this side done, and I think that's going to leave one run back up the middle. Oh, look. Okay, there's definitely a thing down this side of the field, but not a huge issue. We've seen worse, haven't we? Come back to the doits. I think if we do a better job of lining them up with the worker, we can get this whole field done in 3 runs. Yes, we can. I may have underestimated how well he did on this field, actually. Let's see, 10 miles an hour. He's going to get slow. He hasn't got a full load, and that might be part of the tactic we need to employ. Because the slurry seems to just come out at a constant rate, so if he's going really slowly, he's wasting slurry. And it may not be the most expensive thing in the world. But this is the work of doing this, by the way, because I'm talking. Multitasking is not one of my skills, as you may know. Just getting up to the slurry sell point. I keep calling it the slurry sell point because it's selling slurry to me. It's probably technically a buy point. We're going to start refilling the slurry tanker. When you place this, is that going to continue refilling without me in it? Yes, it is. Fantastic. When you place this placeable, make sure this is the bit. You might need to zoom in your view when you're placing it. This is the part you need to be able to get to, and it is very sensitive. And leave plenty of space around it, because the corners are like, I don't know, they catch the wheels, they catch trailers. They can be a little bit of a pain if you put this somewhere where you've got to turn around it and maneuver. So yeah, this just pull alongside by this part. That is how you want to be filling your slurry tanker. Right, we're all full again. Now, one of the benefits of this small slurry tanker and the doits is that we can actually swing them right here, get them back to the right direction. And going forward, as this farm expands, as you're seeing, this is the guy that is really doing all the backward and forward work at the moment. He's got 8,000 litre capacity. We've got excuse me, we're kind of restricted to that because we can't really tow anything, certainly unless we're going to start kind of using the workers' fuel from slurry tank option, but we haven't got the slurry in any of the tanks to even consider that, and I don't really want to do that. So again, going forward, when this farm gets bigger and there's this much slurry to be laid, we may well be looking at a duplicate setup to keep things flowing. But for now, what should we do first? Should we give this field its... no. I was thinking of just starting to give that its second... well, actually it's third fertilising, but we'll give this its second. Now this is... it's tiny, so we've got to keep this in perspective, but it's the steepest hill on the map, certainly in terms of working this field. So again, you don't want him running too slow up here, and if you leave it to workers, they tend to run a little bit slower than perhaps you could manually. Look, this is 5 miles an hour, it's a full tank. So obviously we're going to use our widths here. First of all, we're going to go across the top, which you need to do for pretty much everything, purely because of this sheer rock here will interrupt any worker. They're not going to be able to turn when they hit that. So down the hill, look, we can absolutely fly. We're lessening the load in the tanker. We're also making sure we maximise the rows. This combo, they do seem to overlap quite a bit. Now we're going to go back up here and see what speed we can keep it at. 6 miles an hour, I guess that's kind of acceptable, or is it not? Come on, this is a speed test. 4 miles an hour, so that's using twice as much slurry as we really need to. But as I say, keeping it into perspective, let's turn him and get him off that hill as quickly as possible. It's a tiny hill, it's the only one on the map. You only have to deal with this once a day. As it stands, we haven't fertilised this field at all. It's 30% extra yield per fertilisation, so I think we will do that today. So we'll just let the harvester have a little break. The doits is ready. So we're going to bring him down, fertilise that field. We're also quite close to the farm down there. I've been leaving the mini map off. Let me put it on for you. You will find your bearings, and remember your bearings around this map very quickly. There's also a sell point up here, which I didn't mention on our first lap of the farm, and I'm even going to have to look up what it's called. That's Goldcrest Pacific Grain. Now you see, they're a good example. Goldcrest Pacific Grain, American company, started over in the wonderful area, Goldcrest Valley. All they do, they concentrate on providing farmers with what they need and buying the produce that the farmers produce. None of this property speculation like the Wrights guys, I think, you know. But Goldcrest Valley, we'll do business with them anytime. Right, let's get this guy started. We're just going to check the traffic. Can be an issue here when the workers are turning, actually. But that's okay. The locals around here, they're part of the community. And they do not worry if they get held up by farm machinery, because they know exactly why we're here. Just the way it should be. Harvester man, are you okay? Have you had an incident? Looks like you may have. Back you up a little bit here. Finish off this road for you. With you. Again, is it this one tree? Yeah, you'll go down the rest of the field. It's that one tree. We'll manage it. We're not going to take trees out to save us 30 seconds here and there. And if you look over here, I suspect this guy is going to be employing the same safety policy along the bottom of the road. So we're going to just dash across here. Harvester looks like he needs a little bit of help just to finish off. And then we'll get heading back up this way with the worker. Mr. Harvester, what are you up to? I like thoroughness, but only so much. We'll take out this section here because it looks big. It's absolutely tiny in terms of yield, of course, but we like to do that. Tank is empty, that'll be the fertilizer guy. Right, we're just going to park you up here for a second. Get back to the Deutz. Workers, when they go off hire, always stop the engine, very conscientious. And I'm not sure if you've seen this route back to the farm. It is literally across the road. That's the Gomez Ridge Acres sell point. A lovely little mill just behind it we shall stop and have a look at when we're not quite so frantically trying to get this farm in order. Once this first day of hecticness is out of the way, we will have much more time to enjoy the farm and explore the map. And we're almost there now. Right, there we go. We shall see. I've got to back up. The trigger point is quite sensitive. Right, the Massey is back over here. We're just going to let him have a breather for a minute. He may go up and do a bit of baling. He has nothing to plant right now. You can stay over here too. You're well and truly required, because we need to empty the harvester before he goes on to the next field, which is corn. Back up near the main farmyard, and we're on field 4. We've been along this bottom edge up this side where the workers get confused, and along the top. So we'll let the worker go now. We're going to take the Deutz up to the area of grass. I'm going to do an experiment, because everything is worth checking, or is to me in this map. I'm going to triple fertilise the grass outside the sheep enclosure. The nice big rectangular area that the Massey mower took care of, munched its way straight through it earlier today for us. And just see how that affects the yield, because 3 layers of fertilisation on crops would be a 90% extra yield, which would take us up to nearly 50,000, which I'm sure is what I got in a previous playthrough, which I did some time ago, as I may be remembering it incorrectly. I'm sure if I ploughed this out and planted grass and fertilised it 3 times, I got about 50,000 anyway. So I may incorrectly be thinking that this isn't counting as planted grass, so this is how we're going to find out. So off you go. A Massey is ready to start baling the hay up here. We're just checking the equipment. As I think I mentioned before, the benefit of having the auto engine start-stop is that you can leave it running and just have a quick look at how the machinery is working. Very nice animations in there indeed. Well done, Blacksheep modding for the Massey Ferguson pack. Before I moved the harvester up to field 4, I did say the next field's corn. The next field on the lap of the farm, which is field 16, is corn, but well, it's not ready to harvest anyway yet. We're going to have to go back up there later. And also, I mean, it's kind of symptomatic of some of Grandad's errors, or shall we say inefficiencies. That obviously the harvester's doing the most sensible thing, which is a lap of the map, really. And then it gets to the midpoint and needs to go back to the farm to change its header, or have a header brought to it, or whatever. So that is exactly the kind of thing we're going to try to avoid. Make sure that when a piece of equipment goes out away from the farmyard, it can do as much stuff as possible, whether it's harvesting, picking up, baling, fertilizing, whatever it may be, before it needs to come back. Right, and for those of you that are familiar with how we do things in Sosnovka, I think right now I'm not going to get many bales out of here. It's unfertilized. I'm just going to do the one in the baler, one on the fork technique of getting the bales to where we want them. And I'm really not going to be looking to maximize any mowing and production. We've got those 3 meadows I don't even intend to touch today, to be honest with you guys. We need to get these fields set and straight, and we can start look at doing those jobs. I am a little bit upset. My efficiency gland is throbbing at me because we do have 2 or 3 pieces of equipment that are just sat around most of the time at the moment doing nothing. That will change. The fact that we're ploughing is means we can't use some of the, there's my button confusion, smaller tractors in the fields, which to cultivate and also to plant, as we've seen, we can, but that will improve. Right, we're going to grab this bale over here, get him out of the way. And then it looks like we're maybe going to get 3 bales of hay out of this entire area today. And it may not sound a lot, but when you actually see 3 buckets of power food are going to keep 10 cows happy for a very reasonable amount of time. Drop that one in there, and I'll get on and get the next one. Harvest team is getting on very well. Progress is being made, but we need to take a brief interlude here. We need to sell something, and it's going to be the canola. Yes, simply because the Massey is waiting down at the shop to get some more seed, and we don't have any money, so we need to sell something. I don't know, this is going to be quite enough, but that's okay. The only thing we need to bear in mind is that we need to feed the pigs some of the produce in the field, but let's just double check before we commit. They have plenty, so we really don't have to worry about that. They've got about 2 to 3 days of everything. So Gomez Ridge Acres is the best price, and luckily Gomez Ridge Acres is right here. So if we need to come back and give them some barley, we may well do that too. We're just coming back round with some barley to sell. We have quite a lot of wheat in storage. We don't want to sell that. Well, the best price is at Wright's Agribusiness, which obviously we are not going to be using. If the worst comes to worst, we'll simply feed it to the pigs rather than sell it to them. That gives us enough money to buy some seed. So now, of course, we could have brought some seed from the sell point. We're actually going to get the bag of seed simply because it saves us some money. It's what is it? It's $600 for 1,000. The pallet is $900 for 1,000. It's a no-brainer, really. So let's now get to the Massey. Now the issue with the bags, however, and we shall see this now, I'm sure, is that they're a little bit harder to move. So let's for now just refill the cedar. We're going to zoom in, and we are going to have half a go at picking this guy up on the forks. I think he's going to have to come up on a trailer, to be honest with you. These are notoriously wobbly. The biggest problem is the way their physics is modelled. They have no weight at the bottom as they should, so they just won't hang quite properly on the forks. But let's see. Give it a go. I could be proved wrong yet. That seems to be quite well settled. We are, however, going to take it very, very easy. Now let's think. Put the forks back. Zoom out so we can better view any obstructions. Now, I don't really think I need to show you much more of the field work of today. We've got to go up and get the corn, but we've got to get corn every day, so we shall share that with you another day. But what we shall do tonight, because we need to, is get the potatoes harvested. Field 16, tiny field of sugar beet. In case I didn't mention it, there goes the bag of seed. I'm not going to worry about that for now. That's going to be part of our evening tidy up. What I do need to decide now is what we're going to start planting. Look at that. Poetry in motion. How's that for timing? That's what we like to see. Take you off higher. Park you up over here for a minute because that field over there hasn't been fertilised yet. The Deutz is actually fertilising the cornfield, which we'll get to later, and finishing field 18. He's finished this field. He needs filling up. Oh no, we've got a bit left there, look. A little bit of an odd one. We'll tidy this up. We'll get the fields back at the farm fertilised, and then, I mean, the cornfield simply needs a run over with the fertiliser straight before it's harvested. That's the best we can do for it, so we may as well just wait and do that later, because the planting can't start until this guy has done his work over there, and neither can the ploughing on the next field. So we're keeping two people out of work. We've got the lovely noisy tank dozer over there ploughing. The Massey is seeding on this field, and it's back to the Lindner, the magnificent 2-row corn planter, to finish, well, to start on this field, and doing so almost bring us to the finish of the day's work, apart from one more task. So here in the potato harvesting section, the cheapest option we have without a mod to harvest potatoes is the header for $720 for an hour's lease, and the harvester for nearly $9,000. So that's nearly $10,000 to harvest potatoes. We have a very small potato patch. We do not need to do that. Sugar beet, just going back to field 13, was it? Again, the cheapest option, $13.60 for the header. Sorry, the one that takes the foliage off, and $7,000 for the actual harvester. $8,500 to harvest sugar beet. There's nowhere near enough, well, there were nowhere near enough sugar beet to justify that, so they've been ploughed in. Pity it doesn't count as fertiliser. Right, so what we have is the Akpil Bulwa 2 potato harvester, which is made by VNSFDG2 modding. That rolls off the tongue. It says it needs 35 horsepower. I think it needs a little bit more than that, and it also needs a little bit of patience. Now the Deutz is here, ready to use it, and nothing I can do about this. It's now 7:45 in the evening. These potatoes are just ready to harvest. The corn still isn't. So forgive me if I'm to do this in the twilight. Now this machine, I've only used it a couple of times. It is a quirky little monster. Now the idea is that once it gets going, the worker will leave the line of potatoes in the field. But, oh look, he's doing 3 miles an hour. This is what I meant about the power requirement, although he's also had a bit of a hissy fit about the fencing here. So we'll take him up here a bit further. Now it's going to tell me in a minute that it's full, although there's no gauge to tell you how full it might be. Right, I need to empty the tank to stop threshing. Now what I need to do now, and this is a little bit odd, it's quite quirky about where it will dump. You have to force it to dump, and it won't do it here. Right, so I don't know if it's because it's land I don't own. I haven't really figured this out. Now all I can say is, guys, there you go, there goes the potatoes. Now hopefully if I can get this guy back straight round onto the field and hire a worker, he will start just leaving a row of potatoes behind him. Let's see. Yes, there we go. Now all I can say is this, and it can take a few goes to kind of get it doing this, and you can see with Mr. Rowe, but I'm not going to interrupt him. It's offset by the cheapness. I mean, less than $1,000 to harvest potatoes against almost $10,000 to harvest potatoes. Obviously depends on how many potatoes you've got to harvest, but I'm guessing you'd need 80,000 potatoes just to pay for the harvesting machine for an hour. That's off the top of my head. Now we've got him blocked by an object, so we're going to move the object. Get hold of that wagon, get this guy out of the way so the worker can just continue. You can see on the field behind me that it's growing in 2 different growth stages purely due to timing. It's all been planted, I hope. Let's have a look. That's this area down here. Yep, so it's all planted. Can't zoom any further. That underneath field 8. So you do get that sometimes if you plant a field and it overlaps the game mechanics idea of what a growth stage is. You'll get that separation on the field. It isn't done in kind of in real time, if you see what I mean. It's not 4 hours from when you planted it. It's X amount of hours for, well, to the next growth stage is at 8 a.m. midday, 4 p.m, 8 p.m, if you see what I mean. But this guy is doing quite a nice job. All we've got to do is get around and pick them all up. Now I'm going to go for the small doits and the bucket. The snowblower would probably be a good machine for this. I don't think any of those Massey Ferguson pack forage header will touch potatoes, so our options are limited, but it's an affordable solution. That's all I can say about it. Okay guys, it's 8 o'clock at night. The corn still is not ready to harvest. I'm going to get that done later. We've harvested the potatoes. It didn't take too long, about 15 minutes to harvest them and get them loaded up. 17,158 litres. So we're just going to put that in the silo here, which will take potatoes. Beautiful. And while we're doing that, in fact while we're doing the second wagon, we will just check how long that is going to last our beautiful pigs. I think it is going to be days worth, weeks maybe. Right, let's have a look at the animals. Potato sugar beet 477 is 6 days worth for 10 pigs. We will be making another one tonight, and if you look, we're going to be making about 1.8 a day, but even so 477 into the vast amount of potatoes that we now have, 17,000. My word, yeah, we're never going to have to do potatoes again. That's really, really good. Right guys, we're going to leave you there. This episode's a little bit longer than the previous ones. We've had so much to do. I wanted to get it all done, even though I haven't, because the corn is still growing in this episode. Grandpa's ready for us to put the busher back in the shed. He's probably off for his nightcap and a bratwurst. And I hope you've got something similarly enjoyable lined up for yourselves. I'm actually just going to pop back in here and get a snack while we're waiting for the corn, and then we'll get everything tidied up. So thank you very much for watching. Leave us a comment, any suggestions you may have. Subscribe if you want to stay in touch. Take care and goodbye.